Breakthrough Real Estate Investing Podcast, episode 83.
Hello and welcome to the Breakthrough Real Estate Investing Podcast. We put this show together to inspire you and help you break through to the life that you want to live through the power of real estate investing. My name is Rob Brake, and here with me is Sandy McKay.
Hey, Rob.
What's going on, Sandy?
Hey, not much. Just excited to be here again, record another show, and 83 of them now. So
yeah, you're not doing it from Canada, though.
I'm in the Caribbean, so yeah, a little bit more laid back. Sitting on like a couch in a hotel.
Yeah, right. No,
it's all good. Yeah, getting it out there at least still. And we did record our episode here. Our interview was recorded back home, so just throwing in this quick interview to kick it off.
I see you got a tan going on there.
Do I? Yeah,
a little bit of
maybe a bit of a burn. Was out on the water yesterday, so.
From here, it looks like a little bit like a tan, so.
That's good. Stick with that.
Okay, so everyone listening should go over to our website, breakthroughreipodcast.ca. There you can see all of the episodes, including the ones that are not showing up on iTunes. So iTunes only is saving the last 50 of our episodes. So all of the rest of them, if you'd like to hear some of our earlier stuff, you can go over there and listen to those from the website. And as well, if you want to leave a remark, just or if you want to see any of our links for our guests or any of that stuff, social media stuff, go in, click on the episode that you would like to see more about and get the info from, and you'll see all the information for everybody that we've talked to in there.
And you can also pick up our free report there, the ultimate strategy for building wealth through real estate. And lots of value in that. We are sending out a few more emails these days. We're getting a little bit up on our game there for our just communicating with our listeners. So if you're on our email list, you're going to start to receive a few more things just to keep you updated on what we're up to. You can also go check out our Facebook page too if they want to keep up to date with the latest episodes as they come out. Just search for us, Breakthrough Real Estate Investing Podcast on Facebook, and should be able to find it there. And got a lot more posts happening now, so that's kind of new and exciting for us.
It is, and the page looks really cool. I like it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I mean, I'm going to read two of the newest reviews that we have for the show on iTunes. So the first one was from Wixzu, and he says, valuable knowledge, more accounting tips, but 5 stars. You guys are awesome. It would be great if you guys had more accounting tax strategies. Keep it up, guys. My fiance has just bought our 3rd property, and we did it before age 28. Well, congratulations, you guys. That is definitely, before age 28. I think I had one. It started kind of late. You know what they say, better late than never. But yeah, that's fantastic, you guys. 3 properties before 28.
I was 20. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think we had 3. We kind of started 26. I was like 26, 27, something like that. So I don't know. I'd have to look back. But that's pretty impressive. That's great.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's good.
If they want the tax strategies too, I think we have had Cherry Chan on here. That's looking back a little bit now, right? That's what episode would she have been? A little while back. But they could always go look up that one and find more from her. She's shared a lot in that episode. Episode 36.
There you go. And you know what? Like, I think that maybe some stuff changes, but the fundamentals of what she shared on that episode are going to stay the same, roughly the same anyways. It wasn't that long ago that we did it. If you're listening 100 years from the original time of recording, then maybe you might want to look into some newer info.
It is actually over 3 years ago now. Wow. Maybe we need to recap with her. Yeah,
that wouldn't be a bad idea. Mm-hmm. Now, the next one and the last one I'm going to read is by Aliza's, and he or she says, Belize was a waste of time. 1 star. So they give us a 1-star review just because of one episode. Okay, so here we go. This person says, giving it 1 star for wasting my time with a Belize podcast. So we have 80 something other episodes, but they didn't like that one. Who in their right mind would invest in a 3rd world country, let alone a crime-ridden country like Belize? You also didn't ask the most important question, which is how the ROI differs from Canada. Well, we talked about the numbers, so I guess it would depend on what the actual deal was that you were looking at in Canada. But in Belize, we talked about the numbers that worked there. And then, judging from wherever you are in Canada, you would have to base it off of whatever deal you're looking at from where you are.
Yeah, it can differ widely, right? I mean, the interesting thing about that is he is a Canadian. We do focus this podcast on Canada, obviously.
Yeah.
We thought that would be a cool one because he is down in the Caribbean, somewhere kind of interesting, and or I guess Caribbean, or no, I guess I believe it would be Central America. And
just south of Mexico.
Yeah, first one south of Mexico, I believe, right?
Yeah.
What was your thought on it? What after that episode, we just released that one. That's our last one, episode 82. What is your?
I was actually pretty intrigued, to be honest with you. I'm planning on possibly going there for their April tour because they run tours every once in a while. So I was going to go down and see what it was all about because I liked what I heard. I mean, the cash investment might be slightly bigger, but again, you're looking at higher rental rates. Like almost, there's virtually no month-to-month rentals. It's all Airbnb stuff. So it's a good time to get into it as well. And the tourism is quite strong in the area. So, that's like saying, it's like saying why invest in Costa Rica or why invest anywhere else. It's just a different strategy. It's us bringing you more information. It's not like anyone shoving it down people's throats. Just an option, right?
I mean, it's if you're comparing it to Canada, I mean, I'm sure if you look at it overall, it would be safer. I would imagine most people would call it safer in Canada. But I mean, that's all part of the whole package, right? Analyzing the risk versus reward and how the opportunities differ. I mean, I'm sure they differ a lot, and everyone's individual circumstance and thought on it's going to be different. And Canada's however big, it's huge. There's all sorts of different opportunities and sizes of towns and cities and whatnot, right? So everything's going to look differently depending on your unique perspective on it. But I thought it was a cool show just to learn about what the options look like down there and how you can do that from Canada.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, we don't have, like you were just saying there, we don't have, Canada's not one market. It's hundreds of local markets that make up Canada. So you'd have to look a little more deeply into it. Okay, so that's our reviews. Thanks for sending those, guys. I really do appreciate that. And as usual, we don't mind the critical ones. Keep sending them in, and we'll read those as well, and hopefully we'll learn something from them. Maybe we won't do any more foreign investment podcasts.
No, it's all good. I think it was interesting. I mean, brought some good stuff there. Allowed us to have a little quick chat there and go over what we talked about. So all good. I think this show is definitely more local. We got an interview coming up with more of a local, I guess, Canadian investor, and certainly local if you're in the Greater Toronto area. And we're going to talk a lot about Gary McGowan coming up here in the next few minutes, and we're going to talk a lot about different investment strategies in and around the Greater Toronto area, which I know a lot of our listeners are from. And if you're in a big market like Vancouver or Toronto or some of the other bigger ones across the country, then this is definitely going to relate to, because we definitely dabble into a little bit about how to make sense of investing in these really expensive markets and how someone can justify actually spending what we see people spending on these investment properties that sometimes aren't even making any money month to month. And so it's a little bit of a different perspective. He's also a realtor, so he's got lots of different inputs on how to work with the right power teams and things like that. So it's a great interview coming up here.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I wasn't there for this one, so I'll be hearing it for the first time. So, I'm looking forward to it as well. So maybe we should get into it so I can hear what all the hype is about.
Well, let's do it. Anything else we got to add before we get into it? Or I guess that's it, right? Not nothing too exciting to add this month or this show.
We got lots of exciting stuff, but let's get into our interview with Gary McGowan.
All right, here with Gary McGowan, I would say pretty savvy and experienced realtor and investor in the York region area, I would say, right, Gary?
Absolutely. You nailed it.
Kind of doing a lot up in north of Toronto. If you're listening or watching from somewhere else in Canada, we're York region, kind of north part of Toronto, GTA, Newmarket, Stouffville, Richmond Hill, Markham. Where else? All around there, right?
Yeah, and right up to Lake Simcoe. It's a big area with over 1 million people in it. It's a thriving area for sure.
Awesome. So Why don't we introduce you a bit? How did you get into real estate investments? What's kind of your story on the whole real estate thing? How did you get to where you are today? Give us a little bit of a background.
Little bit of a background. Okay. So I am very, very fortunate, and I didn't realize how fortunate I was till much later in life, but very fortunate to grow up in a family that has always owned real estate. And so my folks were buying properties since I can remember, maybe the age of 5. And I was that kid at 12 years old painting some odd bedroom that I'd never been in before, couldn't figure out why I was there. And, as part of my parents' investment portfolio. So, it was part of my life from an early time. And my parents owned a number of properties over my childhood. And as I got older and then got married, my wife and I bought our first house, and we kind of looked at each other like, man, how do people buy more than one house? And then after a few years, you start to educate yourself. You realize, equity is an awesome thing. And it was about 13, 14 years ago now. My parents had mentioned to us that they were going to go out and buy some more investment properties. And by that time, Michelle, my wife, and I had accumulated, some wealth and some equity. And we thought, we're doing it. We want in. And lo and behold, we started educating ourselves, and we got in touch with some other investors and started talking to people and started educating ourselves, like I said, and we dove straight in. The first purchases we got were 3 properties in one day, 2 triplexes. No, let me rephrase that. 2 5-plexes and 1 4-plex. And that was our welcome to being a landlord and being an investment property owner. So that's kind of like the short 2-minute story on, how we got into real estate investing, and it so many doors, as you can imagine, has been opened up because of that.
So it wasn't a little dabble to poke your foot in and see how it plays out. You just kind of went for it.
No, there's always that line. Do you want to dip your toe in, as you said, or jump into the deep end? And I love the deep end.
Looking back on that, just curious now, was that kind of would you have done that again, or would you advise someone to go more dip your toe in, kind of see how you make out and kind of grow from there? What do you think is the best strategy for people?
That's a good question. I always say jump in when you can. However, you jump in with people that have done it before. And when we go Sandy, like when we go talk about with our realtor hat on or investor hat on, it's so much easier to do something with somebody that's already been there. And without realizing it, that's what we had in my parents. They've owned different types of properties, made money, lost money, and to do it with somebody, it just made it so much easier. There's still headaches, but it just made it so much easier,
Absolutely. Yeah. We talk about that a lot too, is having that mentor in some form, whether it's financially tied together in on it or just at least someone to lean on, right? To ask those key questions when you need to make those big decisions. You don't typically have weeks to decide on things. You got to go quick, right? Sometimes. So making the right decisions is huge, and having some experience certainly helps. I would agree 100%.
Absolutely.
What strategies have you used then over the years? Have you mixed around with some different strategies? Have you focused on one? A whole bunch of different strategies in investment real estate. Which ones have you focused on? Which ones have you used?
There are so many different types, and we feel that we've done a wide range of them. And when we first started investing, obviously we were focusing on, small multifamily buildings from 4-plexes to 5-plexes. And we thought that was what we wanted. And then some other opportunities presented themselves, and we've done probably about 15 properties that were specifically rent to own. We've done short-term flips. We've done, I like to call them long-term flips, where we go renovate properties, keep it, renovate, refi, and hold on to them. We've done a few assignments, but that's not our main focus. The main focus is to acquire real estate. So we want to hang on to, the properties that we own and purchase. So, I think if you were to ask me today, what's our favorite strategy, that's the buy, renovate, and just hang on to it. And that's kind of the phase we're in right now, is hanging on to the properties that we own.
Cool. A lot of our listeners and guests too, I guess, have used that strategy for sure. It's one of the ones we like to use as well. I guess that's probably why we talk about it so much, is just the fact that it's a way to get in at the end of it. It's a bit of a load of work to get to the end of that part where you can refinance and be out of it, but the value you can add in that process is so key, right? And you can really have a lot less money in at the end of it.
Well, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Like I think back on the properties that we bought at the beginning, and we're still hanging on to a good number of them. And it's been, 10 plus years on some of them. And, real estate creates wealth, and it can really only do that over a long period of time. And that's what we're looking at now. And I look at it like, man, these, another 10 years can fly, really fly by. And then, well, what's another 5 years? And at the end of that, like the mortgage is paid off, right? And there's so many other opportunities. If you just want to create wealth and sit on it, that's one way. You got to, you can leverage that obviously and into other properties or other opportunities. And real estate is best looked at with that patient eye. And that, looking back, the last 10 years has flown by. But on the other hand, like there's just so many opportunities that now presents itself because we've had them for so long,
Absolutely. So you've been in the game for a little while now. You've had different strategies you've used, a whole bunch of different scenarios come up, I'm sure. And you're full time, essentially. You're full time, not necessarily always with your investor hat on, but as a realtor investor, you're full on in real estate. What are some things you've seen change over the years as far as an investor's experience? Like what has gotten easier for investors? Maybe something's got more difficult. What's been that investor experience over the last few years? What's it looked like?
Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind is, when we were buying properties 10 years ago, all I had to do was make sure I could hold a pen to write a mortgage, right? So qualifying for that mortgage have certainly changed and has weeded out a lot of buyers from that perspective. And we were writing offers with little down, second mortgages in place or vendor take back mortgages in place, and we were getting them accepted, and when the bank was funding us, it was really easy to acquire properties. Of course, as most of your listeners have experienced, it's harder and harder and harder to do that. Yeah. So the other opportunity, or perhaps the door that opens up, is, well, how can we be creative? How can we offer a solution to a seller that hasn't been able to sell that property because all the buyers beforehand have had that difficulty of getting a mortgage? And for us, if we can look at it from a different perspective, well, they've got a problem. They have a home for sale, and we can provide that solution because we have the buyers. So whether that's, coming in with an all cash offer, being creative and then allowing, showing the seller that they can make money if they hold the mortgage, and just looking at things a little bit differently. Now, of course, the market reflects what type of sellers most sellers are. So if you look at some of the, secondary markets outside of the GTA, for instance, that's where we focus. You can find those opportunities. So I think, where one door closes, you got to look for that other door that opens up. And if you can be a creative buyer, you're going to put yourself way ahead of the game for sure as other real estate investors, way ahead of the game.
I'd agree. Financially, everything's changed, right? The financing side's got a lot more difficult. So being creative then, like you mentioned, even getting buyers or getting sellers maybe holding the mortgage, things like that. So how does someone learn about all these different things? What would you recommend someone to do to learn how to be creative?
Ask.
But where do they learn? Yeah, there's a bunch of, I know you even run your own group, right? Where you do some events and things like that. You have your own show, even all sorts of resources, but where's the best place for people to go for that stuff?
Yeah, I always say the best place to go is, talk to other investors that are already doing it. It's similar how I started investing in real estate. I did it with my parents that were already doing it. So you definitely want to get into those circles where people are doing what you want to do. So for instance, if it's about second mortgages or vendor take back financing, what does that look like? Well, get into those local investment groups, and there's so many of them now. Now you got to know, just like, Sandy, every podcast is not created equally, and every advice is not created equally. So you got to really, ask the right questions so you get the right answers from the people that are doing it. And definitely, I think the underlying factor is network. Obviously, you gotta go talk to the people where those people are doing those things. So definitely networking in at the right events and asking those right questions. And that's something that I've always, whether it's been me at the front of the stage teaching, or on a podcast like this, or on a one-on-one where you're knee to knee and having a coffee with somebody, like ask the questions of the people that are doing those things that you want to do, not somebody that has read a book or read a theory or, read it in the newspaper or wherever that may be. Go talk to the people who are actually doing it if you want to learn how to do vendor take backs and rent to owns or whatever it might be.
Especially because it's changing so quickly, right? There's so many different month to month, week to week, things can change. Financing, it changes daily sometimes, just with different lender rules and whatnot. Right? I agree. You really got to find people, boots on the ground. What worked today, not what worked a few months ago. You might be reading outdated things, that type of stuff, right? So,
well, absolutely. Like I have such a great example of that is if I put my realtor hat on, I'm representing a seller today, and it's a brand new renovation, and we talked about offering a warranty to the buyer that we have on the table at the moment, and the question was, well, do we include that warranty within the offer, or do we exclude it and have a side agreement on the warranty? And the question was, well, when we write an offer, as you know, Sandy, we want to make sure that we have everything in the offer, that when the bank sees it or the lender sees it, that it's nothing out of the ordinary, so they can say yes. Right. So, maybe that question gets answered differently today than it did yesterday. So on the way over to the office, back to the office, I called our mortgage broker just to get his insight and see where that goes. So that's where having that power team, or, that's a term that's used on having the right people on your team, so you can ask those questions for sure.
That's massive for sure. Yeah. Having the right people in your corner that you can pick up the phone and ask and get the answer in 5 minutes rather than spending a week trying to figure it out. That's the difference between getting a great deal sometimes and losing one, right? So,
oh, no doubt.
Huge. We talked about that a lot too on the show, just getting those power team, getting those key people in place. If someone, because we do have a lot of listeners around the GTA and Toronto area, if someone has some events or wants to know about some events that they should go attend, what are some you could recommend? Not necessarily happening, like there's a bunch of consistent clubs, right? Meetup clubs, that type of thing.
Yeah, and those are the kind of, we call them the grassroots clubs, and you've been a part of them and beforehand, and I always find that the people that are really doing stuff are at those grassroots type clubs, right? Because they're there to network with like-minded people. Real estate investing can be a lonely island because not many people really do it. But once you get into the circles of all of the people that are doing it, there's a lot of comfort there. There's a lot of camaraderie and everything to help you boost and lay a great platform for yourself. So definitely get in touch with those grassroots type clubs. There's always the big ones that come around. I can think of Rain or Rockstar Real Estate or Key Spire. Those are all the big ones for sure, where you can network with a lot of people. But I think it's those grassroots clubs from all the way to Durham REI out to where you are in Hamilton. Like there's some really good people at those clubs doing some amazing things.
They don't typically want as much money either, the grassroots ones.
No, they don't, and because they're not. And I think my position on that is they're not there creating an income from the membership. Mm-hmm. They're there to create an opportunity for the people coming in the door, meaning, is there a networking opportunity? Like I run a club, it's the York Region Real Estate Investors Group, and we host it at a new market. And my whole position is, how can we help educate investors? And with that, there's the networking element comes into mind, and bringing in speakers that are doing what they say they do. So having that right type of knowledge and is such a big piece of it for sure.
100%. Yeah. Well, maybe just throw out the link. Where can people find out about that club?
Yeah, York Region Real Estate Investors Group. We're on meetup.com if you were to search there. We host them monthly, and like many clubs, every month is a different topic. The one happening next month is about rent to own. We also have a lawyer coming in to speak. The one that we had the last month was a little bit different, where it was about joint ventures, and it's always changing because we know that people are hungry for information. We know that people are hungry for the right education, and that's what we feel we can deliver for sure.
Awesome. Great. So if you're listening, go check that out. So if you are a realtor now, you weren't always a realtor. You were an investor before a realtor, right?
Yeah.
So always curious to ask people in that situation, how has being a realtor helped or hindered you as an investor and your career in general? What's been the big impacts that it's made? Because a lot of our clients that I talk to as well are they're investors. They want to be full-time investors, yet they see that they could maybe have better access being a realtor, and and they start thinking they want to be a realtor now, but then they're not sure how it's going to impact their life, their personal life, all that sort of stuff. What's been there for you? What's helped? What's not helped maybe?
There's a few elements of it. And a lot of people get their realtor's license. A lot of investors get their realtor's license because of the same reason I wanted to get mine. And that's because, we're doing anywhere from 5 to 12 transactions a year. And if I wrote that myself, like that's an income I can put in my own pocket, all those things, right? And we've all been down that road. And then you realize once I got my license, there's such a small community of realtors that really, like yourself, Sandy, really understand real estate investing.
Meaning, yeah, for sure.
Exactly. And
shocking.
All of a sudden I realized there's a need for a real estate agent with this type of knowledge. And it didn't take much of a shift in thinking that I could go and track clients, because I didn't realize how many clients really, or how many buyers really wanted that information. And for me, I realized after a couple of sales, wait a minute, there's an opportunity for me to be a full-time realtor and provide our services as a real estate investor, and to attract that type of client, whether it's a buyer or a seller, and just that knowledge of knowing, if people want to get in touch with an investment realtor, talk to me, because then we can get them in touch with people like yourselves or wherever that might be up in Barrie, or, even out west, we've sent people to Vancouver because that's their knowledge and that's what people want to work with. How has it affected my investment business is, I don't know the exact stat, but it's got to be pretty close to 99% of all homes that are ever sold go through realtors.
Yeah.
Right. At the end of the day. And that to me is an awesome opportunity, because even before they hit the market, whether we're doing listing presentations and what have you, we know that they're coming up for sale. And the first question that we should be asking ourselves is, do I want to buy this house?
Yeah. Even
during a listing presentation, even if it's at fair market value, because there's an opportunity there. And perhaps you're going with the insight of, I have a few buyers, a few investor buyers, or whatever it might be, to attract to this area, this neighborhood. And that, it's just more ammunition that we can use as a realtor. The flip side is it allows me to get into areas that perhaps I wouldn't get into if I was not a realtor. And I can use that as a great, value proposition for the buyers that we're looking for, whether it's, multifamily buildings that coming up for sale, or networking in the right groups, and just connecting the dots for people. I really, I think that's what a good investment realtor does, is connect the dots for their clients, whether it's helping them walk through a pro forma, to talking about the areas, to this is a great location, this is not a great location. And, that a good realtor can do that in a matter of seconds.
And I find, there's such a small group of investment realtors that know anything about investments. It's always shocking, because you're in real estate as a realtor full on. Why would you not learn about the wealth building aspect of being a realtor, which is investing in the product that you're pushing every day anyways? It's always been shocking. And it's really easy to learn. Once you've learned the investment side, it's pretty simple to learn the kind of regular realtor side of things. It's a lot harder to go kind of the other way. I always find you might as well know the investment side, because you're gonna have one notch above pretty much everyone else, because nobody else wants to get into that for some reason. Always found it a bit weird, but
no, it's so true. It's a terrible analogy, but it's like we have it's like insider trading. Right? Like we have all this information in front of us, and there's so many realtors that decide to do nothing with it. Whereas if we can put together some, local market reports or trends, or just, talking with the, other like-minded realtors, and what investors are you looking for, or what properties are you looking for your investors, and just helping connect the dots for the buyers and sellers that way. And it's such an opportunity for those investment minded realtors to just knock it out of the park for their clients. And that's kind of the approach that we take, and it shows with those are the type of clients that we attract, right?
So if you're an investor out there and you're thinking about this, why wouldn't an investor? I know it kind of depends. Some people don't want to live that realtor lifestyle, but why would somebody not get their license as an investor then, if they can get access to all this information? And obviously there's fees involved, but What would be a good reason not to?
Time. Obviously, you got to put time into it. We work with clients that just don't have the time to invest into it. So, you talked about having the right people on your power team. That goes from anything from a lawyer to a home inspector to a property manager to obviously a realtor. And it takes time to learn the areas, to learn the system, to put all that together. So for me, that would be leverage. So if I'm not going to travel all the way to Hamilton to sell a property because that's not good use of my time, for instance, even though I'm a realtor, right? It's an hour and a half down there for me. So I'm going to leverage people like yourselves and whether that's up in Barrie or what have you, I'm going to leverage that. So for me, that's probably the biggest piece of it. Is this going to be the best use of my time? And, once you do have your realtor's license, if that's someone's choice, make the best of it. It's one of those careers, and I know you got into this this is not the only reason, but it's one of those careers that doesn't have a ceiling. It's your limiting belief is your ceiling. As a realtor, as a salesman, doesn't matter what type of sales you do. And for me, that's one of the biggest pieces is we can make this as big as we want, Sandy.
It's one of the cheapest business to get in, to have that type of opportunity. Absolutely.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah.
So locations wise, you're in, we talked about a bit about the locations, but where are you looking at any specific spots as an investor at these days, or are you finding any areas that are kind of hidden gems around the GTA?
The quick answer is no. And that's only because our pricing is so high compared to some of the other markets, right? I own down in Hamilton still. I own up in Barrie, and if I look at those prices compared to what we just had a triplex right here in Stouffville. Stouffville's a small town of 50,000 people just north of Markham, and a triplex here in Stouffville. You get all excited about it because it's the first one that's come up for sale in years, because there's just maybe 5 of them in the area, and it sold for $900,000, and 2 of the units have got to be gutted, right?
Wow.
So and $900,000 goes so much farther in some of those secondary markets, right? Like Hamilton or Barrie and so forth. And that's where we look. Obviously there's opportunities for some, and if that's, some people want to invest in their own backyard. And if you live in the Toronto area or in a big city, and that's where you want to invest, because there's other values to that, or other value to that for sure. But you got to look at, more things than just that location. What's the cash flow? What's the ROI going to be? And who do you have to manage that property in some of those areas? But if you're asking me about what areas I still like Barrie, love it, even though the prices have moved up quite a bit since we were buying up there. And we bought, we're still buying for clients down there. We still refer people down to the Hamilton area because, as you know, that's where you are. There's awesome opportunities there still. So those would be my 2 top areas in Ontario for me. That's what I know best. As if you get out into some of the other areas, like Ottawa, I don't know. London, I don't know. But if people want access into there, definitely there's people are buying there, so there's got to be opportunities there.
So in those markets where, like, more around where you live and where you run a lot of your realtor business, like you said, price is kind of hard to make sense of. How does people still buying them? How are people making sense of these properties? What are they doing? Are they wrong to be buying these, or? Well,
wrong in one term can be the right in another term, right? So I like to think that you and I and others have been educated very well from that perspective. We buy for location, we buy for cash flow, and we buy for the exit. Right. And for some, if they might be willing, if they're willing to buy that $900,000, $900,000 triplex just down the road from me, they might be willing to lose a few $100s a month if that's the only property they're ever going to buy. So there's also that mindset. There's the mindset, well, I only want to own 2 or 3 properties. If I'm losing a couple $100s a month, sometimes that's okay. And I know that's an odd thing to say, but over a 5 or 10 year period, and maybe your negative cash flow for $1,200 a year or more, that $1,200 or more is all relative to the $100,000 you made over 5 years.
Yeah, with appreciation, mortgage pay down. And
exactly.
Points, right?
Exactly. Now, for the savvy investor, like probably most of your listeners, hopefully, they wouldn't even dream of that. and neither would I. But we have buyers that will do that, especially in the Toronto area. Once you get into, into Barrie or down where you are, and some of those secondary markets outside the GTA or outside of the major cities, you can find those cash flowing properties with great upside and all the fundamentals for sure. So everyone has their own reason for buying and where they're buying, and only they can answer that. It is what it is for some, especially in the Toronto area. If you want to get into the market, that's sometimes the bullet that you got to swallow. Not everyone's going to agree with it. And
you're usually negative. You're going to be negative cash flow almost on everything in Toronto at this point.
Yeah. I haven't seen one positive, with your typical 20% down, one positive property in the GTA area in probably about 7 or 8 years.
Yeah. Really hard to find. I mean, it depends, right? It, like you said, totally depends. If that fits into their plan, then it fits into their plan. And it's over time, if you're out of pocket a few $100 a month, but you're retiring in 20 years with $500,000+ out of that property, perhaps in equity buildup, then I mean, it's like if you compare that to other alternative investment, other kind of mainstream investment options, it's still pretty damn good.
Yeah. Well, I heard this really neat analogy of, I don't know so a mortgage broker was explaining it this way. And they said, let's say that property, wherever it is, whatever it is going to be negative cash flow, $200 or $200, $500 a month I think was the number that he used. He was trying to be really extreme. And the question that was proposed is, a lot of people, I'm in my mid 40s. So a lot of people of that age, have, the retire RSPs that they're investing for their kids to go to university and so forth. Right. And he said, what if you took that $500 a month RSP that you're investing for your child to go to school in 10, 15 years, stopped it, and put it into the property? So now all of a sudden that negative cash flow is now counteracted by that other investment that really wasn't going to yield you much of an ROI. So sometimes you got to look at your entire portfolio. I think when you invest anything, not just single-minded, it's real estate investing. This is my real estate portfolio. I'm not going to look at the stocks or anything like that. I think you got to look at it as a whole,
Agree 100%. And a lot of people that analogy you gave, a lot of people that would make a lot of sense to put it into real estate in that sense.
Yeah.
Over the course of history, real estate does quite well, as we both know.
Absolutely.
So you're a realtor, obviously. How important is it for investors to work with realtors, and like how do they go about selecting the right realtor? And you can maybe even power team members in general, but realtors especially, how do they know, and how do they come up with the right realtor to help them?
Well, how do they know that? I mean, that's a really good question, because I think it's a question, quite frankly, a lot of people are afraid to ask. We're all there to help. Every realtor's out there to help, in my opinion. But how do you know if this is a great realtor or a great fit for you, or is this the realtor that is going to help me buy my next 5, 10, 15 investment properties? And I think the really is only one question: is tell me about your wins and losses as a real estate investor. And if they're not willing to answer that, walk, run, do whatever you got to do. But B, if they're willing to answer it and actually walk you through some of their losses and the mistakes that they made, that's a real estate investor that's going to look out for you, because they don't want you to make the same mistakes. Right. And I can remember sharing a story of we've done a lot of joint ventures in the past where we acquire and attract partners to go purchase the properties with us. I'm sure many of your listeners know what that is. And I was sharing so here's the setup of the story is I had a friend ask me for coffee, and he wanted to learn about rent to own, or just, the oversight. Absolutely. We'll go have coffee. I'll talk to you about my experience with it. And I'm sharing the experience with it and some of the mistakes that we made with it, and some of the mistakes that we made as real estate owners. I got a call a couple of weeks later and said, you know what, we decided not to go down that rent to own road, but we'd love to sit down with you and talk about investing with you. Right. And that wasn't even on the table. Like, I wasn't even there to talk about that. All I was there to just share my experiences with it. So when you're authentic, when people are sharing their story of how they made money, how they lost money, their experience, what they did right, what they did wrong, that to me is how you build relationships. And that's how that's a great question or insight into someone's background for sure, you know?
Awesome question. I haven't heard someone say that before, but you could ask that to all of you could ask the same thing to a mortgage broker. And if you're looking for an investment focused mortgage broker, lawyer, accountant, all that stuff, right? It's the same question essentially.
Yeah, you're right. No, that's good. I'm gonna use that now. Yeah.
I agree though. It's great. And if they can't answer that, because I know a lot of, you see a lot of it. I know I see it all the time. Investors working with people who I know they don't really know what they're doing, because they come to us or they come to, and I see them asking us questions all the time. And you kind of wonder, are they really being well served in that relationship? And, most people don't take time with it, right? They just go with whoever they might know, or they hear of, on who knows where, right? And they just figure that they should know investment stuff because they're a realtor.
Well, that's just it. You're a realtor, so you got to know everything, right? But we don't. Like, if you're a great realtor, you're specialized here, and if you're, so if you're a realtor out there and you're listening to this podcast and you're saying to yourself, well, I don't own investment property, so great, I'm never going to work with a real estate investor. Well, that to me is a limiting belief,
For sure.
right? Because you got to know somebody that is a realtor and is a real estate investor, and you're going to partner with them. You're going to refer that deal, or, walk me through this, and let's share in the commission or share it in some way. And that's a great way to build your knowledge as well. And more importantly, like, as if we put our legal hat on, that's our fiduciary duty as a real estate agent, is to serve our clients to the best of our ability. And if that's not our ability, get them with a real estate investor agent for sure, or with that right agent, whatever that is.
It's the same as going to a market you have no idea what you're doing in. Like, why would you not refer it? If you wanted to learn it, then go learn it with someone who knows what they're doing. It's the same thing with the investment market. It's its own little niche market, right? So yeah, great advice. Learn it with someone else who knows what they're doing, and then you can go do it a little better the next time.
Of course.
Invest with someone who knows what they're doing, or there's a whole bunch of different ways to do real estate investments. Even you don't have to put all the money in. You can donate your time to it. You can, a whole bunch of different scenarios, right? So get involved and learn how to do it, and then you can go out and actually help people properly,
right?
And feel good about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you also have your own real estate podcast, right? I've seen you and Colin doing that. It's pretty fun. What's it called? What's it all about? What's your kind of goals with that?
So it's called the Not So Black and White Real Estate Podcast. And if you know Colin and you know me, you'll kind of figure out why. And we do. It's fun. We're there. So the purpose of the podcast and doing it online, and we do it live with a video stream and everything. And it's to attract like-minded people, attract them to, opportunities and share with, just as we were talking before, our wins, our losses, great interviews and all sorts of things. And it's mostly about real estate investing. It's obviously all about real estate, but it's, just what's going on with the latest trends, what, different doors that are opening up, different business owners that we're talking with that are just killing it. And maybe there's a piece of that, we're all business owners, whether we're in real estate or we're not in real estate and you have a 9-to-5 job, you're a business owner. You manage your own business, even if you work for somebody. And we're going to be interviewing some amazing business owners on how they're taking it to the next level. And that you can find us on Facebook at the moment at the Not So Black and White Real Estate Podcast. And it's a lot of fun. Like I said, we do it online and we do it live, and people are jiving in and making fun of us while we're doing it. And
so I love the live stream aspect of it. It makes it fun. People can poke funny as you're going, and it makes you some back and forth. It's cool.
Yeah, for sure.
The Not So Black and White Podcast, you can find it on right now. Facebook's the main place. That's the page, essentially, right?
Yep, exactly.
And find it. Awesome.
Exactly.
What do you do? Do you do once a month? Do you once?
Yeah, so we're every other Tuesday, so twice a month for this season. And we've got some great guests lined up. We've already had some great guests, and it's just one of those fun podcasts, and we just have fun with it. That's our main goal, is to obviously we're there to provide education, but provide it with a smile, service with a smile. A
little bit of entertainment maybe mixed in there.
Maybe, yeah, a little bit. Yeah,
cool. So. Check that out if you're listening and you get a chance to go over and check that out, the Not So Black and White Podcast. And Gary, what's one of the most important, or maybe the most important piece of advice or information or quote maybe that you might have learned over time that's really helped you and your career as an investor or just as a person in general?
I think if I think of it from the real estate point of view, it's we used to think that we had to know all of these questions or answers to these questions when we go look at a property, or we're trying to look at a performer, or we're trying to look at a new area and what have you. And I think, making the mistakes that I've made has allowed me to kind of come up with 3 questions that I now tell our clients. I tell myself when I'm looking at buying a property, and it's 3 questions is how am I going to buy that property? How can I add value to that property? And how am I going to sell that property? 3 questions that, within a minute I can ask somebody. And of course there's 1,000 questions that go behind each of those questions. But if I don't know how I'm going to buy it, like, am I financing it? Is it a mortgage? Is it vendor take back? Is it all cash? I can't go forward on that property. How can I add value? Well, we're real estate investors, so I want to add value. I want to go do a rental, or can I rent out the garage, or can I increase the revenue of that property? All sorts of things. Can I add a unit to it? How can I sell it is probably the one that we never want to talk about because it's so exciting to go buy properties. How can I sell it is came to me because we bought a property because we fell in love with the numbers. And at the end of the day, when the tenant kind of trashed the house and we had to go in there and clean it all up, like, who are we going to sell this thing to? It's in the middle of nowhere. And it was a lesson, don't fall in love with the numbers. You got to fall in love with the exit. And if you can't fall in love with the exit, then move on to the next property. So those 3 questions again, where how am I going to buy it? How can I add value? And how can I sell it? And it's just easy as that, easy to remember. And that to me is what, 12, 13, 14 years of real estate investing has taught me. I only need to know the answers to 3 questions.
Well, it simplifies it in a good way though, because it avoids a lot of the analysis paralysis that people run into, right? With these properties, if you can answer those 3 and confidently, then you can probably move ahead with it if they all make sense. If you got good answers to those, right?
Absolutely.
We're looking at one yesterday, and that's why we haven't been super excited about it, is because we can't figure out or we don't want to exit on it, but the potential, the need to exit on it is tough. Like, numbers make tons of sense. Location's actually really good. We're in Hamilton. It's a easy kind of go-to type of project for us. There's a couple limiting factors that make the sell. It would probably refinance properly even too, but the sell part of it is a little bit questionable. We're not sure because there's parking issues and things like that. That you go, as an investor, this is a 3, maybe 4 unit property, and you're kind of thinking, is an investor gonna want to buy this if we beautify it and put all this money into it? And I'm not sure. That's a tough sell, actually. So that question is fantastic. I think a lot of people miss that one. Even if it's not the plan, you got to have that plan B, exactly, or C, right?
Yeah, like, how many properties do we want to go sell the day that we buy them, right? But we got to fall in love. I think is, take that with a grain of salt. We got to know that we can sell it because life changes, right? The circumstances changes, or you're buying it with a partner, and 2 years from now, that partner needs out for X reason. So is it an easy property to bring in another partner to buy out that one partner? Obviously the location that's a big piece of it, but you got to know your exit, and that exit can hopefully provide you with 2 or 3 different types of exits, right?
Yeah, options are always good.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, Gary, lots of great advice here. Some great questions, which I like. Some really good questions that people can ask, which is I'm seeing becoming more and more important in life. I think just those great questions. Yeah, a great one there at the end too. How do we exit? If someone wants to get in touch with you and learn more, or maybe they want to learn more about investing in real estate in the North Toronto area, how do they get in touch with you?
The easiest way is by Facebook. I'm on Facebook a lot, so you can find me on Facebook, Gary McGowan. Of course, we have our Realtor page, Gary A. McGowan Real Estate Team, and then our podcast. But that's the easiest way. You can always email me at mcgowan@kw.com. That's my email address. And happy to answer any questions and get you the right guidance or put you in front of the right people for sure.
Fantastic. Well, Thanks so much. If people want to get in touch with me, it's info@mccaberealestatenetwork.com or 289-389-6846. Gary, really great stuff. Thanks so much for coming on, sharing some wisdom here. It's been a pleasure, and I think you got some really great advice for everyone. So hopefully, if you're listening, you found some great value here, and reach out to Gary, talk to him about real estate. He's there. He's happy to answer your questions, and he is excited to maybe share some of his screw ups in his career with you.
Love it. Absolutely. Anytime. Thank you, Sandy.
Okay. Thanks, Gary.